Did you want to be included in the video? Yeah? Did you want to be included? Hi, Vol. Hi. Oh, hi, Risu. Okay, I see how it is. Just the second I start recording and you want to play fetch and you want attention and haha. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, okay. Okay, we're just... I mean, it could be worse. Really? Oh, okay. Are you being grumpy? Yeah? You being grumpy? You being grumpy? You show everyone your quarantine haircut? No? I wouldn't either. Hello and welcome squirrels to yet another video. My name is Juniper Rose, and just in case you don't know me already, I'm just simply a crazy little eclectic witch on a very strange, obscure corner of the YouTube universe. And here we tend to talk about things relating to witchcraft and magic and ghosts, and it's just all tied up nicely in a neat bow that we like to call shenanigans. So, was everything that I just said about that ironic? Yeah, because there's no such thing as neat shenanigans. It's just a hot mess all the time, every day. So, with that being said, if this is the first time that you have come across my channel, if this is the very first video that you are watching, welcome, hi, hello. It is just an honor to have you here, sir, ma'am, non-binary person. If you would like to join the Squirrel Squad, yes, I said it, Squirrel Squad, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. And my uploads are just a little bit on the sporadic side, and by a little bit I mean a lot, so don't forget to hit the notification bell as well so that you are always notified when I upload a video. So before I get carried away, like I did last video,
where it was like a 6-minute intro, and that was just a hot mess and a half, and it was supposed to be like a crappy video, and I'm pretty sure most people didn't even get to the crappy part of the video because I was just rambling.
Yeah, let's just jump right into today's video so that, you know, I don't have a really long intro yet again. I'm pretty sure that I do because, hi, hello, I'm Juniper and I ramble a lot. So with that being said, go ahead, grab your coffee, tea, mashed potatoes, hot chocolate, whatever you want. Can't get mad at that one. Oh, and really quick before I do get started, just really quick, I promise this will take like 3 seconds of your time, which might just be another 3 minutes, but just bear with me here. Okay, so you know how I mentioned in my last video that like I got a new lighting situation going on and that like that's great, but I don't know how to use my lights. Yeah, that's still a thing. So hopefully today it looks a little bit better. I'm not so sure how it is, but yeah, just keep that in mind that I have no idea what I'm doing with my lighting. Yeah, just be nice with me with that. So anyways, I am actually really excited to share today's video with you guys because it's been one of the most highly requested topics I've had to date. I've always been a little hesitant to completely discuss this topic because, well, first of all, I feel like I still have a lot to learn about it, but then again, I was like,
well, Juniper, you still have a lot to learn about literally everything in life.
So that's no longer a valid excuse for you. And I was like, okay, well, not everything is always as it seems. And it's like,
well, no shit.
So then, like, you know, I just ran out of ways to argue with myself. But anyways, my squirrels. The topic we are discussing today is fairies. So before we get into Faerie Magick, it's important that we have a discussion about fairy rules and etiquette. I personally think that these rules are important to understand and observe, even if you choose not to work with the Fae in your practice. So today we will be discussing 13 etiquette rules that it's important to understand and follow if you do work with the Fae. And these etiquette rules mainly come from books on Faerie Magick, lore, and my own personal experience. So the very first thing to know and understand is that the Fae operate on a very different societal system from the way that us mere mortals do things. So this is why I feel like it's very important, before even thinking about working with the Fae, to understand a little bit about how their societal system works and to understand Fae rules and etiquette. By observing and following these rules when you do work with the Fae or when you do have an encounter with them, it is going to save you a lot of trouble down the road. So hopping into rule number 1, and that is to never say thank you to a fairy. You may be wondering,
What? Why? Isn't it rude to not thank a fairy when they do something nice for you? Like, what?
So the reason behind this is that while saying thank you is a very normal and polite thing to us humans, to a fairy, it is actually considered very rude. They see thank you as a payment of a debt. So basically what I'm saying is that to them, if you say thank you, it is turning their good deed into a debt that needed to be paid off. They have a very particular way with words. So when you say thank you, then that is what that means to them, even though it doesn't mean the same thing to us. So what would you say instead to show your gratitude for a fairy if they do a good deed for you? So you can say something like, you have my gratitude, I'm grateful, I'm honored, or like I'm appreciative, things like that. Thank you is also a close-ended phrase. I'm sorry is actually kind of similar to saying thank you. They seem to be words with no meaning behind them. So instead, you would say something like, my apologies, or I express regret. When you say something, they want to know that you mean it with your words, if that makes any sense. Etiquette rule number 2 is to never accept gifts from the Fae. Remember how I mentioned that the fairies operate on an entirely different societal and moral system than the way that us humans do? This is actually a prime example. Gifts from the Fae are not free. Gifts from the Fae are not free. They are never free. There are never no strings attached when you receive and accept a gift from a fairy. This is because fairies operate on a system of debts and obligations. Therefore, if you do accept a gift from a fairy, you essentially owe them a debt that they can call upon you to pay at a later date. And the problem with that is that you may never know when they might come to call upon you to pay the debt. So, long story short, if you accept a gift from a fairy, you owe them. So you may be thinking to yourself,
Well, I leave offerings for the fairy on a regular basis. Doesn't this mean that they owe me something? Doesn't this mean that, they are bound to me and I can call upon them?
the answer to that is yes, but also no. Yes, in the terms of they feel like they will be obligated to repay you at some point. However, since we don't operate on the same moral system as the fairies, they get to decide when they pay back the debt and how they pay it back. So for example, by leaving a fairy an offering on your altar, they may consider the debt paid by them simply not causing you mischief. Number 3. Lending and borrowing. So those that are familiar with fairies, that have had experience with fairies, may also be familiar with the fact that sometimes fairies like to borrow items of yours for an indeterminable amount of time. In this circumstance, it is considered wise to let them borrow the thing because, I mean, well, you're really not going to have a choice in the matter anyways. But they will make sure that they pay you back in some form or another, even if it is not paying you back in the way that you would expect. So sometimes when they do borrow something, they will return that item to you at a later date and time, or if they decide they want to keep the item, they may exchange it for a small favor. So for me personally, I have had a few experiences with the fairies borrowing something of mine, and it's very commonly my favorite crystals. So, you know, sometimes they'll borrow smaller items of yours like a ribbon, and they may decide that they want to keep the ribbon, but maybe they replace it with lace or something like that. If that is the case, it's not considered a gift. They are essentially returning the favor to you. This is just the concept of lending and borrowing, different from accepting a gift. So rule number 4 is to never lie to a fairy. The reason for this is actually very simple, and that is fairies do not lie. Are they a master of words and have the ability to tell you truths in a way that causes you to not believe that it's the truth, even though it is? Absolutely! Like I said before, the fairies are masters of words, and they do love a good trick. But the bottom line is that they are still telling the truth, whether or not they are deciding to cause mischief with the way that they tell it. So long story short, it's wise not to lie to the fae, because you will instantly find yourself in a world of messy craziness that you just, good luck getting out of that. So, Rule number 5 is to always keep your word. Yes, this falls in line with the fairy concepts of debts and obligations, as well as never lying to a fairy. Basically, if you do not keep your word to a fairy, if you gave them a promise to repay a debt, or you made a promise to do this, this, or this, if you don't keep your word, you are not only being dishonest and lying to them, but you are also not paying the debt that you owe them. So honestly, this is a bit rude even to another human. So if you are dishonest and you do not keep your word to them, not only will they not be inclined to work with you in any way, shape, or form, but they'll probably cause you significant amounts of misfortune and mischief, and well, it may be a thing that happens for the rest of your life. So bottom line, always keep your word to a fairy. Rule number 6. I actually found this one pretty interesting because I hadn't heard of it before, but this is in regards to dirty water and what to do with said dirty water. Fairies absolutely detest filth, as pretty much any creature does, unless you're Volt and you like to roll around in the mud. But, you know, maybe he doesn't consider that filthy. Anyways, so if you have dirty mop water or dirty water used for cleaning, you may wish to dump it outside and not give a second thought about where you are dumping said dirty water. If you wish to do this, you need to give an audible warning to the fairies to clear the area where you say you're going to dump your water before you dump your water. When you do so, try not to just chuck your dirty water over a large surface area and just splatter everything that you possibly can with it. Try to keep it in a small contained area. It's also important to not throw your dirty water over a rock. Put yourself in a fairy's position. If it's raining outside, you're walking home from school or work, and an asshole car just goes flying by this puddle that you happen to be by, and you get drenched in a puddle of dirty water. You don't like that, neither do the fairies. So just make sure that you are being respectful and giving the fairies a notice or a warning, letting them know, hey, I've got dirty water, I'm gonna dump it here, clear the space. Okay. Faerie etiquette rule number 7 is in regards to bragging. It is generally not very wise to brag about any experiences or things that you have received from the fairies or a fairy. Don't go telling everyone about your interactions.
Oh my goodness, I left an offering or whatever, and they did this and this, or oh my god, I had the most amazing ritual last night with the fairies, and it was just magical, it was gorgeous.
It's just tacky. If you wish to share a particular experience, please just show them respect and ask ask them first. Pretty much they're okay with you sharing. Wow, sharing. That is a new word.
The new word of the day is sharing. I have no idea what it means, but it seems to be in the realm of an adjective, so.
I don't know. Put your definition down in the comments below. We'll see what happens. Anyways, so if you do wish to share a particular experience that you had with a fairy, please just show them respect and ask first. Fairies, like anyone else, enjoy their privacy. So I've shared some experiences that I have had, and I've done so mostly for educational purposes, and generally the fairies are okay with that, and yes, I have received permission or their blessing to do so first. So long story short, just be respectful as much as you can with that. Faerie etiquette rule number 8, and this is in regards to spying. Along the lines of privacy, obviously, like anyone else, fairies do not enjoy being spied on. So if you wish to see the fae, ask them politely. That way they can choose whether or not they want to show themselves and be seen, let you see them, whatever. If you happen to stumble across them unintentionally, however, it can get a little bit tricky. So generally, if you are caught watching the fairies or spying on them, the repercussions can be a bit severe. If you do stumble across the fae, it's best to just remain hidden and quiet and hope that they don't see you until they leave, unless they acknowledge that they've seen you right from the start and they carry on with their washing or whatever business that they're doing. Bottom line here is just to trust your gut and be very, very cautious. Also, keep in mind, fairies more often than not do not enjoy having their photos taken. They don't like it. So if you want to photograph them, if you want to film them, I highly, highly, highly advise you ask for permission first and that you are as polite as you can possibly be. Etiquette rule number 9. Do not give a fairy your full name. Why? Names have power. If a fairy learns your full name, this in essence gives the fairy power to, in some way or somehow, have at least partial control over you. You may find yourself in a rather messy situation. Fun fact, did you know that this is kind of one of the reasons why middle names became a thing? It's not just a form of protection from fairies, it's also from other magical creatures who may or may not wish to exert control over you. So, you know, never share your middle name with a fairy or any creature. Faerie etiquette rule number 10, and I am running out of fingers, so this will be interesting. Rule number 10 is something we've probably all at least heard of at some point in our lives, is do not accept food or drink from the fae. Do not do this, no matter how tempting it is, if you just happen to find yourself in the realm of the fae. This can bind you to said fairy realm. You may never get out of this fairy realm. In fact, you may find yourself in some form of servitude until the end of your days. If you happen to get out of the fairy realm at any point in time, their realm does not operate on the same time system thingy that this world does. So you may find yourself like, you know, 100, 200 years in the future, and everybody that you knew and loved is probably dead. You may find yourself popped out at the exact same time that you left, but you're old and wrinkly and you have no way to explain this to your parents, why you're suddenly more old and wizened than they are. So, etiquette rule number 11. Etiquette rule number 11 is to not carry cold iron on you. Again, this may seem obvious, but iron is lethal to fairies. If you are planning on working with the fairies, just try not to have iron on or around you, otherwise they won't show up, okay? Like, common sense. As a matter of fact, if you find yourself needing to protect yourself from the Fae, this is a very effective form of protection. Faerie Etiquette rule number 12. Again, this is probably something you've heard of, and that is basically don't step into a fairy ring unless you want to die. Again, like I said, this is one of the most common rules from fairy lore, where a human is lured into a fairy ring in the forest and then they're basically forced to dance to death. Yeah, so the consequences here are dire. So if you hear fairy music and you see a fairy ring, you just go around. Just don't. No matter how much you love the fairies, just don't. Okay? And the very last rule that we have for today is rule number 13, which I added in because it's just a good overall rule to have. And this is to always be polite and respectful. I mean, think about it, okay? The Fae may have a reason to not favor you. Maybe because you're not accepting their gifts. Maybe because you declined food and drink offerings from them. Maybe because you did not step into the dancey circle of death. And maybe they're just upset because you won't divulge your full name to them. So, yes, this is contradictory to pretty much everything that I've said before. Yes, be polite and respectful to a fairy, however, be cautious as fluff. So yeah, it can be contradictory because on one hand, you want to gain favor with the fairies. On the other hand, some of the ways to gain favor with them could put you in a lot of danger. So it's always just best to be polite as possible to them in hopes that you may gain their favor in a safer way. Last but not least, and this is just more a bit of advice, one of the quickest ways to get yourself out of trouble or to gain favor in some way or another with the fairies is honey. Always keep honey on you if you wish to gain favor or attract the fairies. Honey, if you want to leave an offering for the fairies. Honey, if you wish for the fairies to not cause you mischief. Honey, if you wish to have your favorite crystal returned to you. Honey. So that's my advice. All right, so that is it for today's video. What did you guys think? Are there any rules that I mentioned in the video that were completely new to you? And are there any etiquette rules that you know of that I didn't mention in my video? If so, then go ahead and leave a comment down below. Don't forget to hit the like button on the video, show some love, show some support. If you want to leave a comment to help with the algorithmy mess that is YouTube, then go ahead and comment with a fairy emoji down below, or I don't know, some coffee or a potato. You know who you are. And last but not least, if you aren't already subscribed to my channel, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Again, turn on the bell notifications so that you never miss a video. Additionally, you can find me on other social media platforms such as ye old Instagram, so all of my information will be down in the description box below. And anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I had a lot of fun making it for you guys. And until next time, this witch is out. Bye! Take 47 3/4. It's too heavy to hold. I just literally was about to say to hold squirrels when I meant to say hold curls. If you were ever wondering what it was like to be in my brain, that's it. Literally every other word gets replaced with squirrel. So, respectful. Woo!